Good morning, everyone. Popping in a little early. I got some errands I gotta do, like bring my car to the shop. Good stuff. So anyway, I'm here a little early, but I wanted to talk about your mind and change because, as we all know, the only constant in life is change. However, our mind and our brain doesn't like change. Like it is literally set up to fear essentially change, and it is a total survival mechanism from just like Cro-Magnon days, because we had to, stay safe, right? And so we have this area in our brain called the amygdala, and it is our fear center, and it is instinctual and it is based on survival. Nowadays, we're not fighting saber-toothed tigers. We are, if that even lines up with evolution, I'm not even sure. But today, it's like if you look back on like your family of origin and your life experiences, our life experiences have set us up, right, to one, really on an existential spiritual level to for soul growth and evolution. Okay. But on a practical daily level, that those oh my god, I totally just lost my train of thought. It's Monday, people, and if you're watching this in an email, it's Wednesday. But your brain fears change just for survival, right? And so when we are little and we're like these energetic sponges because we were in our subconscious mind 100% of the day. That subconscious mind, again, is where your spirituality lives, your feelings, all your beliefs. Basically, every single thought and memory and feeling you have. It's also, it's like the Akashic records on the spiritual level. It's where you hold past lives. It's also all of your bodily functions. Okay. So we're in it 90% of the time, but pre 7 or so, we're in it 100% of the time. And it's literally like a sponge. Okay. And then, life experiences start happening, or you're like, this doesn't feel good, or this person did this to me, or whatever it is. And then our ego starts to develop. And that ego develops to keep us safe, right? And it is a survival mechanism. All right. And so that ego and that conscious mind, we're only in 10% of the day. Okay. And it doesn't like change. It wants to keep you safe and it wants to keep you protected. The goal of all of the spiritual and soul work is not to eradicate the ego, because you wouldn't be able to function, but to kind of soften it. So you're not getting controlled by these behaviors and thoughts that may not work for you anymore. Okay. And so again, the ego doesn't like change and it fears it. And fear in your mind, again, is the amygdala, okay? In your brain, excuse me, not your mind, two separate things. Like your mind is in there, but it's your actual brain has the amygdala, okay? And that amygdala keeps you safe, okay? But it's also your fear center, all right? So when we look at fear, it is the 4 F's is what I call them. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, okay? And again, this is a survival mechanism, and it is all done unconsciously, all right? So if you want to make long-term changes in your life, how do you do that without your fears getting in your way? So this is where that subconscious mind comes in, and it's all about baby steps. If you've been following me a while, I talk about it ad nauseum. And if you're new to the group, it truly is baby steps. Okay. So I like to think I'm a very symbolic and visual person. And so when I think of change, I think of like a pool, okay? And you're like, wow, that pool looks awesome. And it's the pool of change. And you're like, I am totally going to dive right in. I'm going to dive into this pool of change. I'm going to do all the things and it's going to stick. And then you dive into the pool and it's freezing cold. Okay. So what happens is like your body literally goes into shock and it gets the hell out of the pool. Okay. This is what happens during, like a New Year's resolution is a really great example where you're like, I'm going to lose 50 pounds and I'm going to go to the gym 6 days a week and I'm going to eat nothing but lettuce and I'm going to, you know, find a partner in 6 months. Okay. Like those are some really major changes that you know you're gonna do in your life, right? And then what happens is you do it for like a week or maybe 3 weeks, but what happens is it's too much on your system and it's too much change at once. It's diving into the freezing pool and you get out and then you go back to your comfort zone. Okay. This is all part of that hero's or heroine's journey also, like where you're like, when you get this call to action or call to adventure, the first thing that the hero does is refuse the call. I don't want to do it. There's fear there. There's something different that I don't know about. There's change essentially. And even though this might be not working for me, it's my comfort zone. It's my status quo. I know that it's not comfortable, but at least I know what it is, right? So if you want to make long-term changes to keep your amygdala at bay, you don't dive into the freezing pool. You go over to the low end of the pool and you dip your toe in, okay? You do a little baby step. And then you're like, okay, it's a little chilly, but okay, I'm ready. Let me take a step into that first step, okay? And then you hang out there a little bit until you acclimate and you're like, okay, this one change is good. So instead of hitting the gym 6 days a week, you're like, I'm just going to take a 20-minute walk, right? And you do that for as long as you need to do that. You hang out on that first step for as long as you need to, okay? This is also like not just for behavior change, but it's also rings true for any personal work that you want to do. If you are seeing a therapist or a coach, just baby steps is the way. You want to feel safe and you want to develop trust with the person, okay? And so then you're like, okay, I'm ready to go to the next step. Okay, so then you go to the second step, okay? And then it's like, okay, well, how is it? How is it? You know, and you're like, I don't like it here. I want to go back up. Great. Let's hang that back out at the first step until you're ready. So eventually then you go to the second step, the third step, and slowly but surely you are waist deep in that pool of change and your amygdala has not been activated. That is the goal. And then you're like, oh my God, like, look, I've been like, I don't know, going to the gym for 6 months and like whatever it is, right? Whatever your change is. So when you're thinking of making a big change, we all get overwhelmed. And so it's about breaking it down. And look, people, like this is like how I'm like, not just, I'm that person. Like a big change, I get super overwhelmed. I shut down. I go into freeze mode. Or fawn mode, and I'll talk more about that another time. But so when you break things down and you baby step it, and even if you have to write all your things down for the day and cross them off, you're going to get a little dopamine hit too when you do that, which is also good. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to change is this concept called the consciousness continuum. Try saying that one 3 times fast. And here it is in a nutshell. Okay, you have a continuum, right? And I gotta do it smaller so you guys fit. So on one side is your old behavior, okay? And you're not even really aware that you want to change this behavior. Okay. So on one side, so you're unconscious about your behavior. All right. You're just doing it. Okay. Maybe you have a controlling behavior, or maybe it is like cigarettes, right? You're aware that you're smoking cigarettes, but you're not aware yet that you want to change. Okay. I'm going to take the controlling behavior. That's a good example. So you're doing these things, right? And you're controlling your life, and you're trying to control the people in your life. And you're like, okay, this isn't working. So you're unconscious of it, right? And so it's your mind is unconscious and your behaviors are unconscious. Like you're totally unaware that you're doing this. Okay. And then the next phase of this continuum is that you're aware that you're being controlling, right? But the behavior hasn't changed yet. All right. And so you're just like, shit, now I'm totally being controlling, but the behavior continues to be the same. Okay. And it's a really yucky feeling. It's kind of like the goo phase of being in the chrysalis, from the caterpillar to the butterfly, right? Then you're like, oh my God, all I am is aware. Awareness is the first part of any behavior change, right? Like that's always the first step in anything, is being aware you have a problem, right? And then you're like, ugh, I can't stop thinking about this, and I can't stop seeing it because now it's seen and you can't unsee it, right? So then you move to the next phase of the consciousness continuum. And that is, you are aware of the behavior change and you're trying really hard to change that behavior. You're now changing the behavior, trying not to control the people in your life. You're trying to let things go, right? Super hard. Okay. I'm using control because this is one of my shadows that I work consistently on based on my family of origin and all of my shit, right? And so this is what I call the white knuckling part of the consciousness continuum. It is when you're just like, oh my God, I'm thinking, I have to think about this new behavior. Or I'm thinking of like, okay, how I have to respond and not react, for example, and I have to change my behavior. Okay, so you're aware and you're changing. White knuckle. This is the hardest part of change, right? Where you're literally recreating new neural pathways in your brain, okay? Because the old behaviors and the old thoughts are basically knee-jerk and they're automatic, right? So then you keep working on it, you keep doing it, and then what happens is the final part of this continuum is that awareness, like that thinking about it, right? Which takes a lot of energy, then recedes down back into your unconscious and a new behavior is formed, okay? And then it's like, oh, okay, I did it. Okay, I always like to use the example of like driving a car, okay? When you first learn how to drive a car, you're like 10 and 2. My right foot has to be on the gas and then the brake. I have to do the stick shift or the gears. I have to and you're aware of everything, right? Like those are the white knuckly moments. And then now, like you just hop in the car and you go, right? It's all unconscious. You don't have to think of all the things that you have to do. That is the consciousness continuum. And that is essentially how change works. So if there is any change that you're making in your life, do the baby steps into the pool, and also, give yourself grace and compassion that you're changing a behavior and it's hard work. Okay. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share today. So I hope you all had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Monday. And I think what I might do is just come on sometime between like 9 and 10 or 9:30 and 10. So just kind of be on the lookout. Okay. Mwah. I will see you all on the flip side. Bye.